Next up, Speaking Truth to Power with Luvvie Ajayi, New York Times bestselling author, digital strategist, and podcast host.
Hi, by the name, my name is Luvvie. People always mess up my name up, so I always gotta get it right. It's Luvvie Ajayi. I am excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Ellevate Network. It is awesome to be in front of amazing people who are open to learning, and yeah, let's talk about the good stuff. So, I'm here to talk about speaking truth to power. Do you guys want me to sit or stand? Whatever you want. You know, let's sit. So, yes, I'm here to talk about speaking truth to power. For those who don't know me, my name is Luvvie Ajayi, and I'm a writer, a digital strategist, a professional troublemaker. And I have been writing online for 16 years. I started with a blog called, actually I started in 2003, back in college, when blogging was still online diary. I was peer pressured to start my blog by my friends, and since I'm very impressionable, I was like, sure. The difference is, my friends stopped blogging. The same people who peer pressured me stopped, and I kept on going. So when I graduated in 2006, I started what is now awesomelylovvie.com. Instead of talking about undergrad life, I started talking about the world, social media, race, shenanigans, Hollywood, whatever I felt like talking about. And with my degree in psychology, I was in love with marketing. So when I graduated, I actually was a marketing coordinator for nonprofits to talk about how to tell your story better. But the thing about my blog is, my blog started getting more and more attention, and I was just wondering why. Like, I was writing not because I thought anybody was reading, or not because I had any type of strategy, or not because I was like, ooh, I'm gonna do this thing, and then this thing will happen from it. What happened is people started seeing my work and started seeing their truths in it, because what I write is how I see the world. I write my thoughts, my opinions, about anything. One day I might be talking about, why the best Starburst is the pink one. The yellow one's the one you give somebody you don't like who asks you for some and you don't want to say no. And the day after that, I might be talking about, why Spirit Airlines is the devil. And then the day after that, it's called Break Your Spirit Airlines. And the day after that, I might be talking about the 10 stages of injustice against black people. So my blog started getting all this attention, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm just, doing this thing. And what I realized was people were seeing truths in it, in my words. One of the best things about not having any expectations from blogging is that I was able to write truthfully in the most authentic way to me without any idea of who's gonna read it, what people are gonna think. And speaking that truth over the years really connected with people and allowed them to have a voice in the moments when they didn't have the language for it. I was essentially the person who was saying what you wanted to say but dared not to. My blog is that. I'm that friend who's like, yeah, I'm gonna point out that your wig is crooked, because I can't have you out here bogus. So essentially I had the blog of that. And when I won my first award for blogging, I kind of was like, I don't know why. Because I don't find what I do as a truth teller extraordinary. I find it that's just what I do, because that's who I am. I was the kid who never felt like she could be cheated and be quiet about it. Like, I'm talking 5-year-old Luvvie was this girl. So like, if somebody's like, oh, I'm older than you, I should take that seat, I'd be like, no, but I got here first. So when I got in trouble when I was little, it was because of my mouth, because I was that girl who just couldn't lie. Also, I'm a terrible liar. If I lie, it's written all over my face. So I think I learned early on that it's probably better for me to tell the truth, because it's not gonna work well if I lie. Everyone's gonna know anyway. Might as well do it. So when my work started getting attention, people were like, it's because you're saying what I was thinking, but I was too afraid to say. And I was like, why is it that telling the truth is extraordinary? Why is it that being straightforward is extraordinary? Over the years, I always wondered that. And as I got older and older and I started paying attention to what's happening around me, and when we wonder how sometimes we find the world is a dumpster fire, I always say it's because not enough people are telling the truth. not enough people are telling honest truths. I mean, my core values have been set since I was little. Like, I've been very self-assured in that I knew who I was from a young age. Like, I knew that I really cared about what was happening around me. I knew that justice was really important to me. I knew that I had to be honest. And I've always been really vigilant about being moisturized, so shea butter is a core value. Even before I came on stage, I like ran backstage to be like, oh God, my hands are ashy. Oh, they can't see it. I'd rather be late than ashy. But yeah, like I realized that not enough people tell the truth. We are a society that is used to lying even in small moments. So in the big moments, we don't have the language to tell the truth. The example I like to use is when your friend gets her haircut and the haircut is busted. It has happened. We've all gone to the salon, we've asked for a trim, end up with a bob. You'd be like, how did what? I said trim, and you somehow end up with an asymmetrical cut that just didn't really work for you. And then you like ask your friend, hey, so what do you think about my haircut? Like, do you like it? And instantly, because we're not used to telling the truth, we're used to harmony over truth. That we'll say, of course, I love it. Knowing doggone well, you know, it's not right. Right? You're like, damn, I got to, yeah, girl, that is bomb. And then what happens when she posts her picture on Instagram and sees the haircut is sideways, and she's like, girl, you had me out here like this? I could have worn a hat. In those moments, those are the small moments. What happens is your friend now has to trust your judgment less. The next time you tell her, yes, you love something, is she really gonna believe you? Probably not. I like to be a woman who's impeccable with my word, and that I don't want people to doubt me or do the extra work of having to see whether I was telling the truth or not. So even in those small moments where it's kind of mundane, right? We instantly lie because that's been our habit. That's been what we've been told to do. Make everybody feel better. Everybody's feelings is good. What about yours? What about your feelings? What about what's happening in the world? So then in the big moments, when something that is truly not okay is happening, you're also gonna lie. Because you haven't even had the practice to be like, is what I'm saying something that I mean? It's the times when, when a company does something that has like public backlash, those like crazy ad campaigns that everybody's like, where Twitter drags them up and down. Anytime those things happen, I always ask, who was in the room who didn't tell the truth? Every single time. I'm always curious because I know for a fact there was somebody, at least one person has sense in every room. It's science, I made it up. I just like to believe that at least one person in every room has sense. There's usually one person in the room where this campaign was approved who knew this would not go well. Now, this person might not have spoken the truth because maybe they didn't feel empowered to speak the truth. Maybe they were afraid of the repercussions of speaking the truth. Maybe they were like, you know what? Today I'm gonna be quiet because I always speak the truth, so I'm gonna let somebody else take it this time. Or I'm gonna just let this fail. Because what happens when the truth teller in the room is actually quiet? Things fail. Why? Because truth tellers exist to challenge systems, to challenge people, to challenge situations. And in the room where somebody is a truth teller, somebody who's committed to being honest, those rooms are elevated because, one, if you know that I'm in the room, you know I'm gonna call you out on your crap, which means you don't bring crap in the room. It means if this person's gonna be in the room, I need to make sure I have all the answers to the questions they will have. It means I need to be able to defend this decision that I'm making above all else. It means I have to show up as the best version of myself because they will wonder why I'm not being that person. So I'm always wondering, who was the truth teller in the room who didn't say something? But the other question is, who are the people who are constantly dependent on the truth teller, the one person, to always be the one speaking up? We are so used to going through the world expecting other people to do the jobs we're supposed to do. Constantly being like, I won't have to do it because she's gonna do it. Well, if that person is missing that day, what happens? If that person is just tired of putting themselves on the line that day, what happens? If that person is like, you know what? I'm gonna take a break just to take care of my own self and not be the person that's always in the line of fire, what happens? So we end up waiting for people to speak truths that we're supposed to speak. Again, it's like in a meeting. Somebody posts a terrible tagline, and you see your coworker across the way, and y'all lock eyes, and you're like, girl, But here's the thing, you lock eyes, what happens? Did anybody say anything? No, y'all just locked eyes? What I hate that happens is the truth teller who does go, you know what, I think that tagline is not gonna work well, it's not gonna land in the way it's supposed to land. And then all of a sudden 3 people are like, yeah, I agree. Thank you, Peanut Gallery. But I'm always wondering, why does that person have to have said something first before you said something? You were waiting on that person to be the one to say the truth so that you could piggyback, which I also hate. I like to piggyback on that. Let's not. Like, how about if we did less piggybacking and more of us being the ones who said it first? Because we're always waiting for somebody else to say the thing, to do the thing, to be the thing, as opposed to being like, it is my responsibility to say that thing, to be that thing. Being the truth teller all my life actually does not mean I never have to think twice about doing it. People just assume, oh, well, you're just used to doing it, so of course you'll do it, you're fine. No, it's because it's a practice. It's a commitment. It's actual, like, it's an intentional thing to be the person who's gonna be like, I'm gonna go against the grain, against 15 other people who are sitting in this meeting who didn't call this out. I will make the decision to say, you know what, this is not gonna work. It's a decision to speak the truth. It is not just like instinctual, where you're like, I just wake up every day and honesty comes out of me. It is a decision to be like, you know what, I'm gonna make sure if I'm feeling it in this moment, I'm gonna say it thoughtfully. You know what I mean? You can keep it real thoughtfully. It's not keeping it real goes wrong. So in those moments, I'm like, yes, we do need the peanut gallery, we do need the backups. But if you're always waiting to back up somebody as opposed to being the person people can back up, you're gonna be waiting for a lot of things. And I'm always encouraging us that I want more of us to speak the truth because then it stops being extraordinary. Like, it stops being something special. It becomes a, oh, okay, that's just what I'm gonna expect. And part of it is, I wanna trust people with the world that they live into. This world is not it's not one person's responsibility, it's not 2 people's, it's collectively ours. But we oftentimes let things happen because we're afraid of speaking the truth. We're afraid of speaking the truth to ourselves. We're afraid of telling our friends. We're afraid of telling our coworkers because everybody's feelings gonna be hurt. I wanna be known as nice. You know one thing that's like really empty is the word nice. It's a very empty descriptor of somebody. When somebody's like, how is that person? They're so nice. What does that mean? Is the person who's always agreeable, who never pushes back, who walks in a room and instantly puts himself on the side for somebody else to go up? Is this person nice because they're not a threat to you? If that's your idea of nice, we need to stop being nice. We need to be kind. Kind is more like it, right? Kind, where you are thinking about who's around you, when you're thinking about what the impact of your presence is, when you're thinking about empowering somebody else with your words, when you decide to speak up for somebody that's not you, or an issue that doesn't really affect you, or somebody that you don't know, that's kind. But we're so stuck on nice. Nice means nothing. It means you are not a threat, which at that point, if you are walking through your life as a threat to no one, in terms of people feeling challenged by you, you're saying nothing and doing nothing of note. Speaking the truth will get you in trouble. Let's be clear about it. I'm not gonna lie and be like, yo, if you speak the truth, all will be good. But in the moments when you wanna speak the truth and you're afraid of it, and you're like, I'm afraid of what's gonna happen. Think about the worst case scenario in that moment. If you do this thing, what is the worst thing that could happen? Lay it all out in front of yourself. If you gotta write it down, if you gotta think about it real quickly, what is the worst that could happen? Okay, if that thing happens, do you die? If you don't die, is it dealable? Is it figure outable? So you're in the meeting, you think this idea is terrible because it's trash. And you're like, I wanna say something about it, but like I might get a bad review. Is that the worst that could happen? Your bad review? Okay, let's even go further. Let's say this is a boss that does not like you and already doesn't really welcome your challenges, and you're like, if I say one more thing, she might fire me. Is that the only job that exists? Do you become homeless if you get fired that day? Do your kids starve if you get fired that day? No? No? You get fired and you can go get another job? Because you know somebody at another company who's looking already? Which is many times the case. You're like, girl, if I get fired, I will have a job by tomorrow. I don't care. Think about the worst case scenario and then actively ask yourself, if the worst case scenario happens, can I handle it? Can I deal? Will I put somebody else's life in jeopardy if the worst case scenario happens? If it's not going to happen, what are we constantly protecting by not telling the truth? Think about it. In the moments when we are afraid to tell the truth, what are we actually protecting? If not our current comfort. We're so comfortable with everything. We're so comfortable with what's happening. We're comfortable with our salary, which we should, amen? But it is not the end-all, be-all. What is the worst that can happen? Does not happen as often as we think it does. And I challenge people by putting myself as an example, because I don't ask anybody to do anything I haven't done. I cannot ask you to do anything that I have not done myself. So I'll give you the example of the time when I was asked to speak at a conference in Europe, really big tech conference. They came to me, wanted me to speak on their main stage. I sent them to my manager. She gives them my fees, including travel and accommodations. And they go back to her and say, we can't pay Luvvie, but we're willing to pay her exposure. This would be great exposure for her. And I was like, well, clearly I'm exposed because you found me. I don't necessarily need more exposure. And then in the group of women that I'm a part of called The List, which is this powerful group of women in media, in tech, in business, in 15 minutes I found out that this company pays men. They pay white men. And then the white women that they pay their travel. And then black women who are asked to come are basically asked to pay their way to speak. Right. Trash. So my agents, I was like, this is really problematic because there's an actual hierarchy. I need to talk about this publicly because how many other people are facing the same thing? My agents flipped out. They was like, girl, listen, if you don't speak, we don't eat. So I'm gonna need you, because people might think you're a professional troublemaker for real, and might not want you to come speak at their conference, because what if you actually talk about this? I'm like, I don't do this often. But if I can't be the one to speak up about it, who can? I've been speaking professionally for 9 years. I command the fee that I want. I go all over the world. Who else am I waiting to put themselves on the line? Is it the person who started yesterday? No. If for some reason the worst case scenario is people will stop booking me for speaking engagements, well, I'm gonna have to just come up with a different business model. I have different skills. I can use those. If I get fewer speaking engagements, I'm gonna just have to hustle a little bit harder, rebuild my name back up. I'll be okay. It's not gonna, and I have a savings account. So I was like, I'm gonna say it. So I went on Twitter. Went on Twitter and I talked about it. I didn't even say the name of the conference because I was trying to be chill. I also didn't try not to say them. So people figured it out. But it really started this big conversation for 24 hours, women being like, oh my God, this thing happened to me. That conference also did that to me. There's a conference that asked me, my brother, to come. They decided to pay my brother $20,000 and charter a private jet for him to China. They told me they didn't have any money. So everyone was having this conversation that they were afraid to have. And I think about that moment. It ended up being a Forbes piece, by the way, because the CEO of the company, since he's this dude bro who's not used to being challenged by a woman, decided to double down on his foolishness, emailed me and the Forbes writer and said, well, maybe Luvvie could command her fee if she was in a more urban demographic. Right? Tried it. It ended up in the Forbes piece, so he proved my point. But in that moment, I use that as an example because I was like, you know what, I'm prepared to face the repercussions of not getting booked for speaking, for basically whistleblowing. I'm gonna have to deal. I'm okay with my God, but I have to be a truth teller in this moment, not just in the moments when it's easy. And I was like, you know what? It's okay. Funny enough, that year was my most profitable year to that point of speaking. I end up, thank you. I actually got speaking engagements because of it. And I used that because the worst case scenario was that I could lose a lot of money. And I would have to make some switches. And yes, it actually could affect my career. The best case scenario is that this company can't do this anymore for somebody else. It means other women are like empowered to speak up and say, you know what, I too will not allow people to cheat me. It allowed bigger conversation about pay inequality, misogyny in tech, right? And 4, also actively showed that you can speak up about something that is tangible, that feels bigger than you, and face no repercussions that are negative. I want us in the moments where we are afraid of speaking up and telling the truth to ask ourselves 3 questions. I use it every time. The first question is, do you mean it? The second question, can you defend it? Third question, are you saying it with love or thoughtfully? If the answer is yes, your job in that moment is to say that thing and do that thing and be that thing. Yes, think about the worst case scenario, but what if the best case scenario actually happens from it? So I want to encourage us to keep speaking the truth, keep using our voice for the greater good, because that's how we get the world that we want to live in. That's how we end up in the companies that we want to work in. And that's how we end up being the people who we are proud of every single day. So thank you for having me.